And we're live. Welcome to TKB Live. Today is the Monday after the European Championship. Tom is still trapped on a bus somewhere in the UK. Potentially alive, maybe eaten by dragons. Not sure yet. Welcome, everybody. Hope you all are doing well. And we're gonna do the usual, wait a little bit to let people filter into the chat before we really get going properly. But yeah, it's been a busy weekend. We got to get everybody in the new team jerseys, which was very exciting, as well as a few other things. But yeah, I'll wait just a little bit. It is Tom's fault for booking such a late flight. Fingers crossed that we can get Tom in. I know the last time that I tried to pull somebody in the middle of the stream, it did not work as well. But we should be fine. How many people here ended up watching? Wow. How many people here ended up watching the coverage from the European Championship? Hello, Imagine Wagons, Yamaroshi. It is poor Tom indeed. This is what you get when you are not as experienced a traveler as myself. Finally done for a month, so we'll have slightly more consistent uploads, hopefully this month, unless I forget. Wasteland Warlord, you should definitely try and go next time there's an event in Utrecht. It is such a great place. So Tom is still traveling. That's basically it. I was in the airport with him and his brother earlier today, but they had a much later flight. I think they left 4 o'clock Dutch time, something like that. Whereas I left at 2. Even though my flight is slightly longer, I got home faster. Yeah, the Harpy match was very interesting. Seeing Orcust in top 4 is something that I was quite surprised by. Jake definitely put a lot of work in this season. Earlier in the year, he'd even travelled over to a few regionals that I ran here in Ireland. The IB Turbo deck. IB is really interesting. Again, I'm going to not fully go into things yet because we'll let people settle in. But there was a lot of interesting decks going on this weekend. Like, we had the crazy Thunder Dragon build in top 4 of the event, which is playing like Draconet and stuff. Obviously playing the IB package. Seemed to be somebody who was reasonably well known by the community because Twitch chat went a little crazy. What do I think will get hit in the Forbidden Unlimited list? So was discussing this a bit earlier today with people while we were waiting for flights because that's what you do when you're in the Netherlands, right? Realistically, we're expecting something for the Guard Dragon package to get hit. Everything's really high power at the moment, so you kind of want to be toning a lot of things down. Alfie might be... Alfie is probably a starting point for that. Saryuja is another consideration. That card doesn't need to be at 3. Being able to go Saryuja into Saryuja is a little silly. What do you think about the impact of the European Championship on the upcoming ban list? That is a good question. Realistically, I don't think the European Championship is going to have any more impact than the North American Championship will have had. But we do see that the format's in quite an awkward place because you see Thunder Dragon as being a super high power deck, which we saw most of the players choose to take for the points playoff. There were a few outliers. Paul Schiffenecker took Salmon Great. Adrian Durson was on Sky Striker. Sebastian Ma was on Sky Striker as well. And then Joshua Schmidt was on the Crusadia Guard Dragon deck, which again I think is only a step removed from being the Thunder Dragon deck. You know, he was still playing Dangers. He was playing all of the payoffs, with the exception of Thunder Dragon Colossus. So, you know, that deck is incredibly powerful, the Thunder Dragon deck. But we also saw that it doesn't perform as well across the length of the tournament. Like, we saw Vladis at UK Nationals, where he went undefeated in the Swiss rounds, only to miss out in Top Cut immediately. And I think that is partially, I think that's more so on the deck than it is on Vladis. Like, he is a very consistent player. It shouldn't be affecting him too much. Realistically, I think Sky Striker probably needs to be hit more. It's probably the point where we can say, hey, look, we've had the format with Sky Striker. We've seen all of the stuff it can do. Let's kind of tone it down and put that deck to rest for a bit. Yeah, unfortunately for Vlad, he topped this event again, and once again was out in Top Cut. He at some point he is going to get a proper full premier event top, as in like getting to top 8, top 4 finals. He's putting the work in. It just has to eventually materialize. Yeah, having a 0% win rate in Top Cut is pretty disappointing. UA is best deck. That does not make much sense. Okay, I don't know how many more people are going to show up, as this was announced very last minute. I'm sure if Tom tags along, we will get a lot more. But let's just hop into what happened this weekend. So obviously this weekend we had the European Championship. We had on Friday the World Championship points playoff. We saw, like I mentioned, 400 Dragon decks. Then we had the one Danger Crusadia Guard Dragon, or Thunderless Thunder Dragon, as I am adamantly sticking to, being piloted by Joshua Schmidt. And then we also saw 2 Sky Strikers and a Salmon Great. Tom is currently still traveling home. Yeah, so the top 8 was basically what we'd expected. Obviously, we were putting some theory in case something happened that made one of the 8 players not appear, because in that case, Tom would have been the first person to take a spot if that happened. And basically what it came down to, we were pretty happy to assume that Thunder Dragon would be the most popular deck going into it. A lot of the players had been on Thunder Dragon in the past, and it definitely has the highest ceiling. So if you are planning to just win your die rolls, then you just play Thunder Dragon. And even if you lose the die rolls, Thunder Dragon has a lot of ability because of the dangers and how those cards interact with the deck in general. They enable your chaos cards. They give you the ability to play a lot more cards than any other deck in the format can when going second. So that was our expectation. The deck that we were tiering was pure mine, without any burn, just like set up mine and your opponent has to scoop. But I don't know how well that would have actually worked. Alternatively, it would have just been a case of Tom playing Thunder Dragons, but unfortunately that didn't happen. Raphael Nevin, Joshua Schmidt, and Jonas Koschel all qualified from that, all like super qualified players and definitely going to do amazing at the World Championship. Alex T, Tom did not top, unfortunately, just wasn't our event this weekend. We had a mix of decks. The best performer from Kuribrohs was Ping Zhao, who was playing Thunder Dragon, but he finished day 1 5-3, which meant he could play day 2, but it would not have been possible to top. Realistically, what went wrong for the main event for us was we had a bit of a slump after Nationals. There wasn't much testing going on, and it's a very frustrating format to approach because what we like doing is we like formats which have most of the knowledge kind of solved, because those are the most enjoyable formats to attack and tackle. Like if you look at UK Nationals last year, where Tom brought the Dante's Cat build of Burning Abyss, or if you look at YCS Liverpool, where he brought his 50 card BAPK monstrosity, these are all cases where he saw the weaknesses in the format and he was able to tackle them and gain an edge in deck building in that regard. And we just could not find that edge this event, and that's something that we believe to be a flaw with the format. The only kind of innovation that we've seen in the last 2 weeks is the Utopia package in Sky Striker, but obviously that becomes a lot worse when people know to play around it. We saw that with it in the feature matches on Friday and Saturday because people would be setting up for it and the opponent would just ash the Utopia and it cost people games. I believe it cost Adrian Durson a game either against Jake or it was on the Friday. Most of the matches are a bit muddled together in my head. But yeah, so, you know, that edge has kind of been lost. And looking at the variety of lists that I saw from the event, you know, there were lists with every single different tech choice topping. We see Fusion of Fire Salmon Great topping the event, but we also see Salmon Great, which is completely ignorant and not playing that at all. And I think Salmon Great and Thunder Dragon are kind of our great kind of deciders of the format. Rafael Espinal is after asking, why did people decide to go for Salmon Great? And it's a case of Salmon Great is the most likely deck to win events because it is the most played. It is the least likely to have an unplayable hand. And if your opponent has a weak hand, then hand traps stop them. But anytime your opponent has a strong hand, the hand traps don't matter. So that seems like a weird kind of position where I don't think a individual player is favored to top the event by playing Salmon Great. Salmon Great's very interesting. Like there is a lot of depth to that deck, and there are a lot of kind of interesting plays. It's something that I'd been considering for German nationals because I do think it's very strong, but you know it's not as impactful as something like Thunder Dragons. So I think it's a very safe pick, but I don't think there's anything super exciting about it. Yeah, so the format is really fun, Yamarashi, but like you said, it's a tricky format to gain an edge in. So it is an excellent format for the more casual player, and it's great to have those formats from time to time. It's just unfortunate that it happens for the most important tournament of the year. Obviously, the top 8 is very different. Like Joshua had a really good Joshua Schmidt had a really good theory going into the top 8 playoff, and that really worked well for him. So, you know, there are places to get that edge, but in the full tournament, there's so much variance in what people are playing and what you're going to end up against. Joe, on the topic of Altergeist, That had a really surprising top representation, and I'm not quite sure why it performed so well, because it does have issues with hand traps. I do think Mystic Mine was going to perform very well this weekend because of the expected increase in Thunder Dragon. And that's the thing. It's like going into UK Nationals weekend, Thunder Dragon was on the rise. We saw German Nationals that did quite well. And so we've seen the increase in Thunder Dragon. And as Thunder Dragon increased, it started creating a vacuum where, like, if you were lucky and you played a Thunder Dragon matchups and you're on a good deck for playing against it, which Altergeist can be, because uh, you're playing actual trap cards. Being able to solve strike stuff against Thunder Dragon is really good, and even if it doesn't work on stream, Imperm Faker is amazing at a blowout against that deck. So Geist is definitely strong, but I don't think it matches well into most of the kind of ways that we want to play the game. We definitely didn't really consider it. I'm not super hot on the deck because you have to have meaningful trap card plus Altergeist monster to really do anything. Again, Oliver Newton was doing very well with it. I've seen him in 2 top 64s in the past month, so he's definitely somebody to watch with Altergeist, especially if it doesn't receive hits, because it hasn't been performing up until this event really that well. So it could be something that dodges the ban list. We'll have to find out soon, I guess. I wouldn't expect a list until after the tins, realistically. We will probably take a look at the World Championship format whenever that gets released, because I would expect there to be the World Championship parties like we saw in previous years, but I don't know about that. We will need to wait for confirmation. Or maybe confirmation has been given out and I just haven't noticed. It's been a very busy month. Yeah, there were like so many different Solomon Great lists. It's very weird to say that there's a general consensus. Like, even in the finals, we saw Samir versus Gabrielle, and, you know, the lists were quite different. Gabrielle was playing Lady Debug, Samir was playing Flame Bufferlow, Samir was playing Super Polymerizations, whereas Gabrielle was playing Fusion of Fire, and also there was the Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, which we actually got to see on stream for the first time, and it won a match. Hey, Prince Murloc, welcome back. I have not seen the new Magical Musket support, but I will check it out. I think Magical Musket... if you have the name of the card and post it in the chat, I'll check it out. I think Magical Musket could do well because it is a deck that will be able to use Pot of Extravagance, presumably. But I'm not crazy about it. I wasn't crazy about it when it was originally released. I think it has a lot of cool ideas to it. But just because the deck has cool ideas doesn't mean that it will necessarily be competitively viable. I'd like to see it competitively viable, but I've never seen it actually do much. In a format where we have a lot of spell and trap removal, then it could be good because you'll be able to just keep all of your spells and traps in your hand. So that would be quite good. But at the moment, the format is like way too varied. Post Forbidden and a limited list, it's definitely a deck to check out, would basically be what I would say. Magical Musketeer, Max. I mean, this card could be broken when I look at it now. Hey, Little Sheep, welcome to the chat. Did you end up playing European Championship? I think Musket will be tier 2 at best. Still has fundamental ships and pilots. Yeah, it feels a lot like Cosmo. And Cosmo has the upside that Dark Destroyer is just an insane card. Details for Worlds will be announced when they're ready. Now that the European Championship is over, I guess we'll probably see them soon. But yeah, generally they want to get things up about a month before they happen. And Worlds is the second week of August. So should hopefully see the details, if there is anything, soon. And otherwise, I mean, I would love if Worlds were an open event, but I would be surprised if they did that, because it's much easier to just run stuff on the shop level. And it also makes it more accessible, which is cool. So we'll have to see. Ooh, they're getting a Link 1. That's pretty cool. Okay, so Max is cool in that it's getting, like, it is just a free Link monster, but I mean, like, you're never actually resolving either of the effects turn one, and that's pretty bad. If there was some way to force monsters onto your opponent's field, then I could see the card being really good. Like, if you could go turn one, a damage for Rio, max, get a bunch of searches, and then just be like fully loaded to interact with your opponent, that'd be cool. But even then, I don't think the deck has enough points of interaction itself, so then you need to be setting other spell and trap cards, and then yeah, then like if you're setting other spell and trap cards, you're losing the edge from playing Magical Musket in the first place. Yeah, going second, it's a great card, but the problem is that it just, like, if your opponent has any pieces of interaction, you're gonna struggle. Did I say no super heavy samurais were coming up in the upcoming set? Omar, I don't know if I did, but that is very sad. Maybe one day they'll print another 100 million super heavy samurais, and then I will be incentivized to actually read them all and know what they do. But not happening anytime soon. Yamaroshi, the Harpy deck was really cool. I don't think it's a real deck. If the field were just Thunder, then it would be an awesome rogue deck. But the problem is, like, you play into Altergeist, and you have like a bit of a tough matchup. Like, Altergeist at least needs their monster cards, but against something like Striker, I can't see that deck surviving. And against Salamangreat, you can do a bit more, but I think it's just missing a few things to really be there. But like, Harpy's Featherstorm, crazy card, and it was a super cool feature match. And like, Super Zulu, who was the French Yugi tuber, who was there, like, massive respect for that guy. He does some really great, impressive production stuff. If you speak French or you want to see what the French scene is like and how it's growing so fast, he's somebody to check out and keep an eye on. Yeah. If he, yeah, it's a pity he doesn't have better English, because it would be awesome to be able to have him on for commentary and such. Or if I had better French, if only. Oh, sorry to hear about the main event. Congrats on the 5-1 inside events, Little Sheep. Yeah, summoning max on the opponent's turn after you've gone first is cute. But again, it's just a case of, like, do you get enough points of interaction? If you do, it can be good, but are you playing Ib Justicar to search World Legacy Awakening so that you can guarantee max? In which case, like, how many garnets are we playing in our deck? I have not looked at the new Glad Beast support. I know it exists. Glad Beasts generally suffer from the fact that all of the past support we've gotten for them has been incredibly underwhelming, which is a pity. I did not play. I did not play during the Gladiator Beast format, but that was the time period where I was reading the Yu-Gi-Oh! World magazine that used to be published in the UK and Ireland, and so I read a lot about the format, and it seems like such a cool deck. So I mean, hey, look, if we can make Glad Beasts playable, that would be awesome. Otherwise, you see a lot of cards being printed as of late, which are clearly not necessarily designed for the main TCG, but are designed for something like Duel Links, or perhaps Speed Duel. So if it appears in either of those, that would also be very cool. I don't think you could print Glad Beasts in Speed Duel yet, because they seem like they'd be really strong. Like, Bestiari would be busted. Spell and trap removal is super valuable in that format. Actually got to see a good bit of speed dueling. For people that didn't watch the stream, I got to interview Danique, who is one of the Outpost players. I'd spoken to him at Dutch Nationals and at German Nationals, and he ended up winning the giant Destiny draw card. So we had 32 players for a mega event there. So that's pretty good. It's good to see that Speed Duel is doing well, and it's definitely something that we are going to be looking at now that we are free and liberated from the competitive season. Because I think this season we really kind of lost a bit of the just general joy of playing Yu-Gi-Oh, focusing on just trying to progress competitively. Like, we had a really good season. Kuribrohs got like multiple tops at YCS London, a second place at YCS London, tops at Utrecht. Did we get tops at Milan? I'm not sure if we got tops at Milan, but and then we won YCS Dusseldorf. So like, and Tom also won the Northern Irish Open. So like, overall, it's been a pretty good season. It's just quite a pity that the European Championship, the most important event of the season, didn't really work out for us. Prince Murloc, I have not voted for the new structure deck, but Shadol would be super awesome. Big fan of the deck. I think I have my ulti. No, I don't have them here, but I do have my set of ulti constructs waiting for when I can play more Shadols, because I am super fond of them. Yeah. What would I have played for the event if I entered? The three decks that I would have considered playing would be Salomon Great, just Mystic Mine, some variant, or Thunder Dragon. Logic on Salomon Great, again, it's just the most reliable of the decks, and it has the most kind of gameplay in terms of, Foxy gives you great coverage, you have recurable counter traps, recurable normal traps, you get to play Phantasme, which I think is quite good in this format, because it means that as Salomon Great, you are the most consistent deck, and you get to sculpt your hands to be as impactful as you can. Mystic Mine, I was expecting a lot of Thunder, and we did see a lot of Thunder. I was also expecting a shift away from Twin Twisters, but in the end, we saw that nobody was really set on anything. Like, if people were expecting lots of Thunder Dragons, then we would have seen super polymerizations everywhere and Twisters gone, whereas instead we saw a mix of everything. So I think I would have been super punished if I played mine in the main event. I think mine in the World's Points playoff would have been fantastic. And then Thunder Dragon, I don't think it's really my kind of deck. I'm not super crazy about playing Wombo Combo. But it definitely seemed very strong going into this event. France was incredible this weekend. I've not watched much of Zulu, but I watched the Lestream episode recently with the Speed Duel Invitational, and again, they had like 6,000 people watching, so I'm gonna have to watch Zulu stuff, maybe brush up my French a little bit, because, I mean, based off the number of players we have, we might get another French YCS at some point, which would be cool, because I have never been to a French YCS. I was selected to be staff for YCS Lille, but it was unfortunately cancelled back in 2015, I believe. So yeah, it'd be super awesome if this new growth in the French player base and like impressive turnout, impressive players, um, you know, we could be seeing good things for the French community going forward. Did I know that Marcelo has a house in France? You know, I don't think I did, but maybe they'll come up on our cooking channel at some point. Uh, Alec reliably tells me the new Gladiator Beasts are equally underwhelming. Or maybe he's saying the new Great Britons are equally underwhelming, and I'll accept either answer from him. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the new GBs are designed for duel links. Nick, with regards to Speed Duel, I think Speed Duel is picking up. It's something that I am going to be bullying people here into playing more during this kind of cool off time period. I will also be focusing a bit more on studying and stuff. I have exams coming up in August, so I need to figure out how my time management is going to work. But I love Speed Duel. I have not gotten a chance to play. Unfortunately, all of the big Speed Duel Premier events I have been working, or I was just recording stuff at German Nationals. So I should have really just played the German Nationals one, but we got like a bajillion deck lists instead. So I don't know which you guys prefer. What's my all-time favorite deck to play, or what formats have I enjoyed the most? That's such a tough question. So I love playing sealed, and yeah, I love formats that you can kind of find flaws in and really exploit things. The deck that I have enjoyed playing the most probably was Paleo. Paleo Frogs was a lot of fun. I like played a lot of Frogs back in 2010, 2011 when I was kind of little Timmy casual. I think it was like 13, 14ish. So, you know, I have a great fondness for going summon swap frog. Um, but formats, Link Strike starter deck is an amazing format. We have the Denko format, which we might be renaming, but it's like two pre-constructed decks. They're both the same deck, fixed goats, a lot of fun. I 2-1'd Alec last night at silly o'clock. Very good. And then cubing as well. Like there's so many good formats. Basically, if somebody puts a deck down in front of me, I'm quite happy to play it. Unless it's Spiral Tier 0 format. I have no interest in that sort of format. Roshi, no. I don't think Pendulum... I think Pendulum is worse Thunder Dragon because it plays going second poorly, and Thunder Dragon already has such a good turn 1 that if your opponent somehow breaks your turn 1, whatever. Like, it's so unlikely that somebody breaks your turn 1 board with Thunder Dragon that you don't need to go higher into Pendulum. And even when you go first with Pendulum, you can still lose to stuff like Mech Knights. So it's clearly not a guaranteed winning going first. So yeah, I'm not sure what the full lore of Pendulum is. I'm sure Alec will chime in and tell me why it's a great deck. Little Sheep, at the moment we are not recruiting people. We are making sure we know what our goals and stuff, etc. are for the upcoming year, because now is the chance to really kind of evaluate and decide what we like doing, what we don't like doing, where the YouTube channel's going, who do we want to be, basically. So while that is the case, we're definitely not taking anybody on. As it is, from my point of view, based on how our team runs, it makes sense to only have people on the team who are local to each other, because we all have very limited time, and the best way for us to help each other out is by being close by. So I think it burdens people a lot if they are on a team and not near their players. I think I think Gosus do a thing where they always take on two players who are close to each other to support them in that way, and that is something that if I were to expand the team, it would be a case of taking another cluster of players. So we have like our Irish cluster, we have our UK cluster, and I kind of bounce between the two. And at large events, they mingle a lot more, but it's impossible not to accept the fact that that is going to be the case. We have group chats and stuff, and people do chat, but it's a lot nicer when you do see the other players. I didn't get to cube any. The other guys did. There will be more cube content coming as soon as I can get it. Need to convince Tom to give me a cube list so we can publish it so that everybody can build a cube. What sort of cube have you built yourself? Because I'd be super interested to see, and I'm glad you're enjoying the format because it is great. I think we are almost more excited to play cubes sometimes than we are to play the main event. So I have not looked at Marine Sass yet, but water decks are generally good, so I don't know. I am like super far behind on all of these OCG announcements because I'm just not keeping up, guys. It's just been a busy month. If somebody wants to explain here what the deck does in general, then I'll quite happily give my general first thoughts impression on it. Pendulum is budget friendly solitaire combo, but that's not something I enjoy playing. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if we were even seeing many sphere modes this weekend, so maybe something like that was great. Bad solid matchup seems terrible at a European event though, because I think that 1/5 of the field was Solomon great roughly. Something absurdly large like that. So having a bad Solomon great matchup seems quite bad. Yeah, like Alec is after saying, for people that don't know, Alec is Iolus. Um, yeah, it's just not in a strong position right now. Deleuze is hard to droll, but nobody is playing droll. Droll does seem really good if you are. Droll seems really good if you are expecting to play against a lot of Thunder Dragon right now. UA Dark Warrior to win Worlds. Very possible. Worlds is like a super weird format this year, so we'll have to see how that actually goes for it. I mean, it could just be Sky Striker that wins Worlds. I know that like there's a lot of stuff hit for the deck in the OCG, but I still see Sky Striker lists topping over there. But I guess they have Maxi, and they also have finally discovered that Kaiser Call Team is a card. Nick, most powerful attributes across the history of the game. The most powerful out of the most powerful attributes across the history of the game are Dark, Light, and Earth. They're the ones with the most cards printed. However, Fire and Water do good things from time to time. Like at the moment in the current format, obviously Fire is quite a good attribute. But I think in general, if you look and pull every single card ever printed, you will find far more playable Dark, Light, and Earth cards than you will find of Fire, Water, or Wind. I think it would go like Dark, then Light, then Earth, then probably Fire. It'll be Water or Fire, and then at the very end is Wind. I mean, again, we keep saying Striker is dead, Alex, and then it's not dead, and we all cry, right? I think that's the kind of ongoing gag, right? Arsid, none of the team managed to top into WCQ. It was not a great weekend for us on the competitive side of things. We really enjoyed the weekend. I made it to the finals, just on the wrong desk, but Alec has just put a wrong opinion in the chat. Incorrect, Alec. Water is not better than Earth. There are more good Earth cards than good Water cards. I present Giant Rat, and I end my case. But yeah, so event didn't go great. We have a lot to learn from it, and we will be coming back to the new season energized and ready to go. We're going to hit the beach at some point in the next few weeks for just a chill Kuribrohs beach day. Yeah, Max, that is basically how the cube building works, is like we have a starting list and then people insist on taking the gadgets out of it and they just ruin my experience and it's very sad. No, when I started playing red, green and yellow gadget were in the cube and I loved them very dearly, and when they were cut I cried for 2 weeks, but I'm not bitter. But yeah, we add cards in every time a new set comes out. And wow, people are really pushing a UA agenda in this chat right now today. I mean, Alex, it's probably super, super, super dead. Hopefully it's super, super, super dead. I have not looked at both of the lists yet, because why would I prepare for talking to the camera? That would be a silly idea. No, Striker most likely isn't going to be the deck for the event. I need to look at the OCG list quickly. I mean, they have like Nightmare Mermaid and stuff banned, so I think pretty much everything is hit at the moment. It's going to be one of those weird, like, low power formats. Imagine Wagons, if you want to share your UA deck list, shoot it on over. We'll quite happily have a look and see the powerful ultra athlete stuff at work. Tiebreakers and opponents dropping is very sad. Will I be going to Niagara? I am on the fence about this. I am very, 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 very tempted to go to Niagara, but I have not decided yet. I do have a free flight because my last flight to Canada was delayed by 3.5 hours from Dublin. So I can go to Niagara, but it's also the same weekend as Ghent, which is also a lovely city. So once I know, I will let people know. I am very, very tempted. Do we have Gravekeepers or Glads in draft? There are Gladiator Beasts. They're one of the more dangerous kind of groups to go into because if you don't get a bunch of them, they're not great. So like Pendulum is kind of a sub-team in the cube and it's a better one. I think Gravekeeper's Spy was probably in at some point. I don't think there are Gravekeepers at the moment. Yeah, I mean, Tom had such a great season. Like, it really does suck that he missed out on the World's Points playoff. But, like, he did also win the largest European YCS ever, so, you know, he's done a lot this season. He also, I mean, like, so many people who watch this channel are here for Tom. Like, Kuribrohs would not be what it is without him. Obviously, the rest of us all put a lot into the team as well, but you know, he has carried us from time to time, and it would be nice if his like hard work and kind of time put into the game was really able to be appreciated. And I mean, obviously it is, but I guess like as a competitive player, Worlds is kind of that pinnacle, right? It's when you get to Worlds, people are like, yeah, this person is one of the all-time greats. Cyberus and water, that mixture sounds crazy. I remember seeing the seahorse. Yeah, Cyberus water stuff sounds very interesting. I'll have to take a look at it. and I will have better ideas about it on the next stream, or I might make a video about it. We'll find out. But yeah, that deck sounds a little silly. Finish full combo with 7 cards in hand. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, Necro Valley is in the cube. That's a good card. Yeah, I think Striker is potentially still playable. Oh no, yeah, Nick, the Prank Kids feature match is just so sad. Like, I don't know what went wrong there. I should have spoken to the player afterwards, because that was just, I was super hyped. I was like, this is our last match of the day. It's gonna be great. We're in round 8, super casual, and then we just see the Mystic Mine end phase, and it's like, oh. But hey, it makes good content, and that's what we're here for, right? A Prank Kids Link 1 would be bonkers. I think you could give the deck it, because I don't think the deck is completely insane anyway, but it definitely would be a very high power card to give them access to. Imagine Wagons, if you do want to send us the list, if you shoot it over to the Team Kuribrohs Facebook page, that's the best way, or to my Facebook, Daniel O'Neill. I can take a look at it there. Is the prize card in the cube? The prize card is in the cube when Ping is about, but Ping was very silly and moved to London, so he is not always in Bristol. But the next time we cube, we'll try to get him over for it. Archetype has an in-archetype infinite impermanence. That seems pretty crazy. Yeah, I feel like Alec is just saying that Gravekeepers were in the cube, but were dropped eventually. I feel like I was aware of the cube when Gravekeepers were still in it, but I don't know if I ever actually played it with Gravekeepers in it. Seisher, I am glad that we're able to help you understand the game better. I mean, it's something that we're going to be doing going forward for sure, is just like looking at things and being able to kind of help people grow their understanding. And kind of, there's such a different mindset between playing as a player who is just starting out and playing as somebody who's established, and being able to help people bridge that gap is something that I really love seeing. So we're always happy to help you guys out the best that we can. The new rocket structure deck seems interesting. I've not seen the full list. I don't know if we have the full English list yet, but I think the release events for that will probably appear soon. Twisted Dope, does it bother me that Worlds has a different ban list? If Worlds were more accessible, then yes, it would. I understand that Worlds is a fusion of 2 completely different games. Like, the official card game and the trading card game are managed very differently. They have very different design approaches. So I don't think it's amazing, but Worlds is like such a special event, and they want to make it as fair as possible to all of the participants. So it seems like an okay compromise, but it would be interesting if they had some sort of, there's a lot of different directions that they could take it. They could make it like a singleton format, or they could have a special set list where you can only play cards from this time period or something like that, and that could be interesting too. Like Magic's Pro Tour used to sometimes have block constructed, and the way block worked was you could only use cards from the last 3 sets, which are kind of related sets. Obviously, that doesn't work as well because our sets are not the same sets as the Japanese sets, whereas in Magic, you have the sets being the same across the world, which obviously quite a big difference there. But if there was more deck building aspect to it on the stream, that'd be really cool. Austin, I'm not convinced because he seemed a little confused by it anyway, because he could have just gone mine, set a monster if he really didn't want to do anything else. Because mine, set a monster still makes a lot of people, like, it forces them to go into a Phoenix and stuff. Yeah, it's weird that Prankers struggles. I mean, Prankers doesn't struggle because Feather Duster and Raigeki aren't good. Prankers struggle. Um, Prankers struggle because they have difficulty getting into their stuff, and when they're going second, they have even more difficulty. So that's their core issue. Again, if they got something like a Link 1, they would have a lot more power available to them. Judge Zeros. I don't live in Bristol as much as Alex, Seb, and Tom like to joke that I do. I have been in Bristol a lot in the past year. I'm in Dublin. The rest of the UK Kuribrohs are Bristol based, and then Ping is out in London. I don't know what Tom's head-to-head record against the world's representatives is, and that's something that I'd love to see if we can get it for future commentary. Would be, I think, UK Nationals last year, they had a stats tool that let them show what players' win rates were at regionals and stuff, and then also against each other, and that would be super cool. Because that gives you a lot more to talk about and can kind of really set up the matches very well. Imagine Wagons, that's awesome. I will check them out. And I will get back to you. Yeah, Max, we're definitely going to have a full cube list. Again, we were as focused on Euros as we could be. We weren't really thinking about anything else, but it will be nice to kind of normalize and get back to the shenanigans that we like doing. I'm trying to convince Tom to have a computer available, because one of the things that I'd love to do is we can play kind of alternate formats on Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist, which is something that you might have seen me play here before. So that is something that we can do on streams from time to time. And I also might just try streaming a bit more frequently in general with Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. So we'll see how that ends up. I'm not promising anything, but I will try my best. Tony, yeah, so the format definitely rewards finding text. Hard luck on bubbling, that is quite a pity. But I think it's like the texts are very circular is the problem. And so if not everybody is following that cycle, you have to hope that you are the one step ahead, because if you end up being 2 steps ahead of the person, then you are in an awkward position. I think that was a coherent sentence. I'm still a little tired. Magic Shuffle FTK was big this weekend. You're going to have to expand on that. I don't know what that is. Is Lord of Red a good deck to build? Depends, F1, on what you're wanting to do. Lord of Red, I assume this is the Ritual monster from Waking the Dragons. Very cool card. Realistically, it hasn't seen any competitive success, and Red Eye's cards can be a bit expensive because they are very collectible. People love Joey a lot. So if you're wanting to play it as a fun tier 2 deck, then by all means go ahead and build it. But if you have limited resources and you're wanting something that is playable at regionals, then I definitely wouldn't recommend picking it up. Something like Salomon Great would definitely be a safer option. It's a good base to build off. The expensive cards for Salomon Great are hand traps, which are the least likely to be hit and the least likely to decrease in value. So that would be my kind of like general thoughts. At the same time, I absolutely love the card Lord of Red. I know it is a filler arc and it's terrible, but I really do love the Lord of Red and that kind of part of the arc. That matchup between Joey and Alistair, I think, was a really cool one. I believe the Salad FTK, Chris, was in fact just a Fusion of Fire as a card. I was very disappointed. We were going into the round, and I get the two deck lists brought over to me of the two Ghosties guys that had been playing the Solomon Great FTK, and they're just normal Salad lists, but I don't know. I think it was a case that people were hyping it up, because people like to kind of trash talk things. Yeah, Valen. Okay. It's Valen, Alistair, and Raphael. And Alistair is the one that fights Kaiba, and Raphael is the one that fights Yugi. I promise you guys, I am a real fan. It's terrible with names. Yeah, so I think I've covered most of the things from the event. I mean, the finals of the event were crazy. We saw so many misplays on stream, which I'm really surprised by. And I think it really shows how much extra pressure there is on these players at the European Championships. We had like the matchup between Joshua Schmidt and Jake Quincy in top 32, where like Joshua was playing, like he made some questionable mistakes, which particularly from such a well-known and highly regarded player, it was very unusual. And then also Adrian Durson against Quincy in top 8, playing off for Worlds, and it seemed like the pressure was really getting to them, and that was a pity because they could have been even better matches. But I mean, all of those players are fantastic. Durson unfortunately missed his chance this year, but 100%, like I expect to see him going next year. He's been super solid this season. Again, he won the largest regional of the season. That's almost more difficult than winning a YCS because you just have to go undefeated in Swiss. You don't get that one life that you get in a YCS. Kyle is asking, will there be an updated BA deck from Tom? Well, you see, somebody gave Tom a Cherubini match, so I think he's like contractually obliged to play Cherubini now, so not promising anything, but yes, we will be talking about Burning Abyss, if nothing else. Again, there's no Worlds Race pressure on Tom now, so we can definitely mess about with the stuff that we enjoy playing, as opposed to feeling kind of married to a deck. Is Ghost Ogre the second best hand trap right now after Ashe? No, Infinite Impermanence is what I would be playing after Ashe. Ogre can be good, but there are a lot of matchups like Salmon Great, which it's just not good in. Favorite season of Yu-Gi-Oh? Probably the Millennium World arc. The kind of final arc of the original series is quite good. I also really liked 5Ds. I know that's not the most popular of opinion, but when I was watching it, I thought it was really cool. I love the Synchro Monsters. Earthbound Immortals are very cool as well. So that's my general Yu-Gi-Oh viewing. Like all of the original series is really good. I have grown to like GX more and more as I grow older. Definitely was very unimpressed with it when it first came out, but it's growing on me. Particularly like Little Kuribrohs series where he's just watching through those episodes and talking about just what's amusing in them. It's really good and definitely kind of gets me hyped for it. Alec, yeah, I think Impermanence is just fantastic right now. And that's the thing. Not everybody was playing Impermanence at Euros, and I don't understand because it was the hand trap that I was expecting to be the most represented. We saw it picking up popularity at NAWCQ, and it just didn't materialize as much at this event. So that was odd. So Imagine Wagons, if somebody gets the World's invite and doesn't turn up, like, if they just don't show up, they don't show up. If they let people know beforehand, then it does get passed down to the next person on the list. So, for example, I think if Jonas, Joshua, or Raphael couldn't make it, then it would pass down to Dinka. who 100%, like, that guy needs to get to Worlds at some point. He was so good this entire season. He won a YCS with prank kids of all things, you know? He was super consistent, and it was really upsetting to watch the top 8 playoff because all of them were such great players, and you kind of want everybody to be able to go to Worlds. But I'm also just a softie, so you know, I you have to get it somehow. But like, there are just so many good players in Europe right now; it's crazy. Um, Gamma is really good right now, Max, but it also bricks, and it's bad going first often, so it's kind of like 50-50. Raptor, I think Joshua's list on Friday was a really good call. I still think it was like pretty prone to mine, and I'm surprised nobody was kind of like willing to just take the chance on mine, because I think if somebody took mine, it would have been really good. But yeah, Joshua's list was really solid. Like, the guy knows how to deck build. I'm surprised that him and Jonas were on different lists. That's what surprised me, because they are teammates. I would have expected them to be working together. Um, Especially once they found out that they couldn't play each other round one. I mean, there was no lack of Orchest, Nick. I think Orchest was the second most represented deck. I was, in fact, more surprised by how much Orchest there was, because I would have expected less at the event. Because I think Orchest was the worst performing of the top 4 decks, that being Orchest, Thunder Dragon, Salmon Great, and Sky Striker. So that was weird. The presence of Ib in the list from Jake, that was weird. I wasn't expecting that. It matches really poorly into Salmon Great, but I mean, again, that kind of feeds into the whole point of, like, there was a lot of decks that just could play a lot of different things, and if it works, it works, and it worked out for him. So maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like an interesting choice. I mean, against mine and stuff, you're able to give them the Ib, which is handy, but I'm not sure if that's enough to justify playing the card. I mean, nobody is playing debug at the moment, so Ogre is less likely to come down on it. Yeah, it's a case of, like, Ogre, when Ogre is good, Ogre is bonkers good. But Impermanence just has, like, consistently the best effect on the board. What is Salmon Great's hardest counter? Any deck that goes first and sets up a big board, or like Alika's after saying there can be only one, that sort of stuff really shuts Salmon Great down. Another fun thing, I mean, we saw Vladis playing his Infernoids, which is really cool, but that plays Layer of Darkness, and if you play Layer of Darkness, Salmon Great can't do much because all of their fire monsters are now darks. Max, you would rather have Ka than all 4 from the main event. I mean, the 4 from the main event are pretty solid, but yeah, it would have been really lovely to see Ka going. I think he super deserved it. I have not seen the new Elemental Hero deck with Grand Merge. I am just behind the times, guys. I'm just this old man. I feel like the game has aged 10 years in the, like, 2 weeks that I've not been paying full attention. Lambda is a Cyframe Link monster, right? So that seems pretty silly. UA midfielder buyout incoming. Sure. Probably. Yeah, Silencer, by, like, I've not been to a US YCS yet, but, like, European YCSs are quite the party. Get ready for lots of rulings with regards to just language, but that's fine. Like all of the events I've played in Europe have been super chill, and everybody's been lovely. The Grand Merge seems like it would be an awesome Duel Links card. Huh. That's quite cool. I don't know what it combos with, but it seems very interesting. But yeah, I still need to figure out if I will go to Ghent. People should definitely consider Ghent. It's a very nice event. Um, it's weird because it's really expensive to fly US to Europe, whereas like Europe to Canada is a very cheap flight, relatively, and Europe to anywhere in Europe is really cheap. So it's actually super handy for us in Europe to. It's super handy once you're in Europe to just travel to basically all of the events. So Joe, at the European events, particularly at Euros, uh, if you need a translation, you call a judge and they provide the translation. So players can play any language card that is in the European languages, which makes life a lot easier. Because the database exists, and the database, you literally search the name in English if you know the name, or you search the name in the language the card's in, and then you just press a drop down and you have the card in the alternate language. It's just super easy. So thankfully, translations are not a problem. It does require judges having access to internet connection and having a phone, but that's not too much to ask. Huh. Summoning Nebula Neos seems pretty crazy. That seems really, really crazy. Also, I love that card. It has excellent artwork. Chris, we were talking briefly about the ban list. I've not fully formed my thoughts. Probably expecting a guard dragon on the list, and like, I think everything has to be hit pretty heavily to just tone everything down and get us to a slightly more consistent format. Because the current format, everybody's trying to tackle different things, and deck building is becoming very difficult because it's impossible to know what you need to be hitting on the day, and if you get unlucky, then a tournament can just be completely unplayable. The Rambo Tom did not manage to do very well this weekend. He wasn't really paying as much focus as he should have. He lost a game in time, which he shouldn't have, and then he also had some other issues, which uh, he just wasn't on his A game, and it's kind of understandable. It's been a very long season, but yeah, unfortunately didn't top, but we will be coming back strong for the next season. Yeah, Max, like I've been doing everything since Bochum 2015, and yeah, the European circuit's just really awesome. Prague 2 was actually the first YCS that I ever played after judging for like 3 years. Um, Silencer, like you don't have to speak any specific language. If there are big language issues, you call a judge over and they'll get a translator and it'll all be sorted out. The translators are just judges who speak the languages required. But most of the time, like Yu-Gi-Oh is pretty universal. People know what's happening, so you're able to kind of, gesture and be like, this is attacking. So yeah, it's languages aren't really a problem. It seems like more of a problem than it ever actually is. Yeah, Europe to Chicago can be really cheap. It just depends when you book and where you're flying to. So yeah, things can be accessible. I'd love to get over for a full American event. I actually was over in the States last weekend for Pokemon's North American event, and that was a really awesome experience. And it's really weird being at an event where everybody, or pretty much everybody, is speaking English. I think I had one person who was speaking Portuguese, and so I needed to kind of struggle through with her, but we managed to work that out even. So, it's not too bad, and it's very tempting to come over to the US for a 3v3 YCS, but we'll have to see if we get one in Europe first. You get time extensions if you're getting translations, so they shouldn't have any major impact. F1 aspect, I do not know if I will be at the Kids Cards summer camp yet. I do have exams coming up, so I will need to be relatively focused on those. If I'm not there for the full time, I will definitely be popping in on one or two of the days, unless I am traveling. Dangers are hand traps on the list. So dangers are a really big issue because, again, in the decks that care about having stuff in graveyard, like, in the right deck, every single danger is an upstart goblin, and that's really dangerous. On it. Oh, why are they called danger? It's too many puns. But yeah, realistically, I could see Jackalope or Nessie getting hit. Tsuchinoko is not a problem. Tsuchinoko is like, by itself, is just such not a problem. So yeah, hand traps, I don't think so. Hand traps don't need to be an issue. Is there going to be an ordeal of Traveler this year? There hasn't been one announced. Realistically, I don't care too much about getting the mat, which is why I'm happy to consider going to Utrecht. I liked last year's mat because last year was the only mat that I got, and I like it because I love Noble Knight cards. But yeah, it's not a big enough incentive to go to one event over another. Yeah, we all assume that Ordeal will be on, but we haven't gotten confirmation. Dusseldorf was the first event of the normal Ordeal season, so if it is in case, you will need to have gone to Dusseldorf if you want to get all 4 of the events in. Tree Max C fixes the danger issue. Sure, Alec. Sure it does. I mean, it probably does. I'm not sure how I fall on Maxi at the moment. It really depends on what sort of format they're trying to build around it. Yeah, they always release the image late into the season. Yeah, it's always announced late in the season because there's like loads of like approvals and stuff that need to go on behind printing mats and such. So why has Thunder Dragon been abusing dangers and other decks have not? That's kind of a weird thing. I think Burning Abyss, some variant could potentially be playable in the same way Thunder Dragon is playable, but the difference is that all of the other decks that can abuse Thunders, or that can abuse dangers, don't end on as big of a board as Thunder Dragon does when it goes first. So that's the case that, like, if you have dangers, which are expensive, you're just going to be on the best danger deck, which is the Thunder deck. Like, even in Orcust, we've seen dangers fall off because they don't work with the strategy that that deck is trying to achieve. Thoughts on Altergeist going forward, considering it probably won't be touched on the ban list. I mean, the problem is, once Altergeist becomes popular, red reboots come in, and then the deck's super dead. So, it's one of those decks. It was probably a very good call for this event, because nobody was playing, nobody was playing Reboot. So, good in that. Where do I recommend to get cards? Well, Card Market is a good place to get singles. If you are in Ireland and you are going to be getting cards, Gamers World or the War Chest are both places to pick up sealed product. That's the best advice I can really give. I did see the Ghost Sister time win. I was in fact commentating that round, so not only did I see it, but I got to live the experience. We got the deck list at the start of the round, actually, and the deck list was in French. So the French people generally write in cursive, so I couldn't fully make out all of Samir's list because I'm just not used to reading kind of joint cursive very much. So I saw the Phantom part of Ghost Sister's name in French, and I was like, okay, this is one of the ghosts. So I like look up Ghost Reaper, and the French name doesn't match. I look up Ghost Ogre, the French name doesn't match, and I kind of like turn to Marcella, and I'm like, is this Ghost Sister? And we type in Ghost Sister, and it matches, and we're like, this is wild. And then it ends up winning the match, which was absolutely bonkers. Um, if Samir did nothing else this weekend, he created excellent content and had great showmanship. So looking forward to seeing how he does at the European Championship. The French players were crazy. I like came out of the staff room at the start of the day two, and they're all just there singing national anthem on camera, and I'm like, this is wild. So we'll have to see how that goes at events going forward. Any chance Striker survives the ban list? We are getting it printed in the upcoming set, and we're also getting it in the tins, and it is like, yeah, it's probably going to survive in some form or another. It's definitely not in a great position after the ban list, but like it can use mine. So well, it depends a lot on where the other decks are positioned, really. Like in super slow formats, the striker spell cards are playable by themselves. Like we see in Cube, where Afterburners and Jamming Waves are completely playable. Obviously, the format is not going to get as slow as Cube because Cube is a singleton format, which will pretty much always be lower power level than a constructed format. Mm. Yeah, I mean, dangers in spell and trap decks, Pascal, are generally worse. Like, you don't mind discarding something like Sekka's Light, but yeah, there's not much that interacts well with them, so you do just play the 37 creatures plus triple Sekka's Light deck. And again, the problem with all of those decks right now is that they hard lose to Mystic Mind game one. At least Thunder Dragon can try and negate it. Do I think the format is getting stale? I'm pretty bored of the format at this point. I'm not finding much leverage to kind of really explore stuff, so I would not be sad if we had a big shakeup in the coming days or weeks. I don't think it's a bad format. I just think it's a very played out format. Chaos Dragon Legionnaire is strong. I mean, realistically, they can just play things like Chaos Emperor Dragon. Legionnaire is very strong. I don't like that it can mess with cards in the hand. That would be my concern. But I think the deck is still very strong without it. Like, it's a strength of the deck, but I don't think it's a problem card in the deck. When you're doing fair things and you're summoning Legionnaire, it's fine. It's when you're doing unfair things and then you get Legionnaire on top of that. I mean, apparently, Imagine Wagons UA just has everything, and it's just the ultimate sleeper deck. Ban Elfie limits Skull Dread, I could say totally see that. Yeah, I think LP definitely is a card that I would just send to the Shadow Realm. It like the Guard Dragons are super cool because they are quite a fun idea. You know, it's cool that they care about the zones and that they lock you into dragons and stuff, but they're also just like far too abusable. So kind of like dangers. You know, it's an interesting concept, but sometimes you just have to say, okay, well, this little experiment has been played out, so let's go on to the next thing. And that's kind of where we are in the format. There's a lot of there's a lot of decks which we just don't need to be seeing more of right now. So maybe it's time to say goodbye and all that sort of stuff. Should there be a rule limiting how often you're allowed to check the graveyards? Potentially. So like Yu-Gi-Oh has the issue that it's such a complex game from so early on that the it does take a lot of time to figure out the best play. So unless we want to start playing Blitz Yu-Gi-Oh, like Blitz Chess, where you have 5 seconds to move, which would be interesting, but I think it would lead men to madness. I think the end of match procedure is something that I would love to see looked at. I'll be sending a email about it to the tournament organizer when I get a chance, just discussing like what I would love to see changed. Again, we will be doing a video just looking through the different policy documents of different games and comparing how the card games handle different issues, because I think that would be very interesting, and we can see, are there any ideas from the other games that we could potentially use in Yu-Gi-Oh. So yeah, I don't think there's any particular issue with checking graveyards, but judges need to be trained really well on catching people slow playing or intentionally stalling. And that's really difficult because the judges are already super busy. Chris, I would honestly happily take any of the structure decks. I just want all of them. I just want every single structure deck from the OCG vote. But I will quite happily settle for Shadal's. It is a lot of fun. Sesma, the most interesting deck is probably the Harpies deck that we had round two. First off, I mean, the player piloting it is just a massive French YouTuber, so that's really cool to get to see. And then he was playing such a wild deck and managed to take the match just like so convincingly with the Harpies Featherstorm, which is a card that like I'd seen but I hadn't read, and it just blew me away. It was such a good it was a fun match in terms of like the most interesting deck to commentate for. Was there anything more interesting? I guess Joshua Smith's Thunderless Thunder Dragon, his Crusadia Guard Dragon deck, was also really sick. So that is a good one to watch. And again, it's Joshua Smith. He is such a good player. Imagine Wagons, let's comment on the UA stuff. Dunker is really cool there. UA has a lot of cool stuff going on about it. I'm just not sure it's the deck that we need right now. Pascal, I think we're only getting this one set of Time Thief stuff, which is really sad because Time Thief Redoer is bonkers good. Like I just want to play Redoer a bunch, you know. So we'll have to see. Redoer actually is really good in Cube because you have all of the trap monsters, which are mostly level 4s. But yeah, Time Thief, if it gets more support, is potentially just like super duper bonkers. Tom had been playing it in Orcust a while back. Seems good. Yeah, Nick, you are correct that the guard dragons require a lot of space in deck building. But the problem is when all of the decks, like in this current format, all of the decks are so limited on extra deck that there's no space for utility in the extra deck, and there's no real space in the main decks for utility either. So we see that it's like a very low tech format, and you just have to hope that your deck is capable of dealing with things. Like Salomon Great has Abyss Dweller, but you can barely fit Tornado Dragon in Salomon Great. You can't fit Exciton Knight at all, and you can't fit like Redoer or stuff. So we miss out on a lot of variety because everything is like super kind of homogenous in terms of what the deck lists we're actually able to play are. So I would love to see the choices for extra deck slots being opened up more so that there's more space to kind of consider what you want. And the core issue there is the fact that so much of the engines of the decks is tied to the extra deck now. Whereas in past formats, it was generally your power ceiling was in the extra deck and the engine was in the main deck monsters. So, like, take Shaddoll, for example. Construct is kind of an engine piece, but everything else of your engine, like, Construct is an engine piece because it sends a main deck monster, which is actually an engine piece. And then, things like Winda and stuff are just win conditions. They're your, like, pressure. So yeah, I would like to see a reduction in the amount of extra deck cards that let you search, or let you summon from deck, or let you draw cards from deck, because making the extra deck so important for those actions makes it more difficult for people to get to choose interesting cards. Yes, if Thunder gets hit badly, then Snow can come back. I don't think so. I don't think we're gonna see Snow anytime soon. Great card, one hell of a card. But if you're gonna be making Shaddoll's a deck, you definitely cannot let Snow see play. Oh, actually, somebody had been asking about deck lists, and there was an awesome deck. I'm so sad that it missed out on Top Cut. Emilian Vama had won a nationals with Necros, and he was on bubble round 11 playing Necros, which was super cool. Yeah, I'm really sad that he missed out because he did really well. And the deck is very cool. What would Shaddolls need out of the structure deck? First off, El Shaddol Construct 3 would be pretty awesome. After that, I don't think the deck needs too much, really. A Link monster that actually did something would be great. But other than that, do they need much? Just more cards that do things. Starter cards, like, imagine a Sinister Shadow Games, but you can activate it on your first turn. That sort of thing would be bonkers. So maybe something in that sort of direction. Or maybe some extra synchros that are good, because that deck did have access to those. I've not carried it too much, but those are things that could potentially be good. Thank you, Imagine Wagons. I will make sure that we get absolutely everybody on just pure UA. We're going to scrap the new jerseys, just wear UA-inspired jerseys, and we're going to win all of the locals and regionals. Yeah, Redoer is, like, bonkers good. Hey, Ernestus. Congratulations on getting back home, okay? Yeah, I somehow managed to get home in time to do this live, although I will be finishing soon because I have not eaten yet. So, probably should have gotten food, but it's fine. Does anybody have any questions? Because I will be calling it an evening here very shortly. The current Shadow link is real trash right now, Nick. You are not missing out on anything. And the most annoying thing about it is the fact that its name is Shadow Construct. So now if you accidentally write Shadow Construct on your deck list instead of El Shadow Construct, ugh, just don't do that. That's my pro tip, because that is a terrible mistake to make. And at some point, somebody is going to make it. I remember this one time back in Extravaganza London when we had extravaganzas in Europe, that somebody was playing Shaddolls and he had written Blackluster Soldier on his deck list, no envoy at the beginning, and he was hurriedly running about to try and find a Blackluster Soldier to play. Is Evil Swarm Nightmare a good card? Evil Swarm Nightmare is a great card, but there's no space in any extra deck for it at the moment, and thus it is not a playable card. So that's kind of sad. But I think Nightmare will see play again at some point. Like, flipping cards face down is good. It does good stuff. It makes people happy. Well, makes the person playing it happy. I don't know if it's necessarily a good card in something like Shadal, say, but Silencer, if you are wanting to go to the largest YCS, then German YCSs are good, or else if we have a French or an Italian one. Italian ones are always difficult to get to. Realistically, if you're an English speaker, then I would say YCS London, which is potentially on the Halloween weekend. It's not confirmed, but that's what people seem to think, and it normally is on. YCS London is probably a great one to go to. London itself can be expensive, but the advantage is everybody speaks English in London, which makes the travel easier. And if you're in any way nervous about travel, particularly if you've not been over much before, then that always makes things a lot less stressful. And then also YCS London, if you do scrub out, you generally get free entry to the convention that it's connected to, which is one of the largest anime conventions in Europe. So that would be my recommendation. I think London is like a good first European convention. Even if stuff goes wrong, there's things to do, and otherwise, I mean, it's just easier to be there because English language and all that. I mean, if UA plays it, then it must be good. Thoughts on the Lunalight Orcus deck? Kind of cute. I'm sad. I don't think we got to feature it. It was on my radar for a while, but never got around to it. Like, the Lunalight cards are just bonkers. They're super good. It's definitely a engine that I need to take more time to look at, because, you know, it just keeps popping up doing good things, and if stuff gets hit, like, we see the OCG Lunalight deck lists, which are doing quite well, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something similar in the TCG in the near future. Definitely one of the engines that I would recommend having the cards of, because I do think it will see play. As it is, though, I am weary from my travels, so we are going to be calling it an evening here. Thank you all very much for joining me. I know it was very last minute, so sorry about that. I wasn't sure if I would be home in time to record, but we did it. Next time we will hopefully have a Tom with us. He is hopefully after getting home okay, but I've not heard from him, so he may have been eaten by alligators, which would be very sad. Hope you all have a lovely week. We didn't get any profiles at the event, but I will be trying to record more content. And also, there is the whole commentary from Euros. So if you are looking for good matches to watch, top 8 match, really good. Like, pretty much everything day 2 was really solid from what I saw. And then also the top 8 playoff was really good. I got to talk about Ducks on stream at some point, so, you know, there's a lot of good stuff going on there. Yeah. Hope you all have a lovely, Silencer, London, England, UK, easy peasy. Just make sure that you have sterling rather than euros, because they don't use it because reasons. But yeah, hope you all have a lovely afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever you are. If you have any thoughts for stuff that you would like to see us create, just post it in the comments of this event, or of this thing, and I'll take a look when I am less sleepy and more fed. And yeah, this is Daniel from Team Kuribrohs signing out. Catch you all Monday at the latest.